20 minutes. We'll talk national championship game with him as Michigan gets the win over UConn last night. Dominant season, dominant fashion again last night. First team to get it done with 5 transfers. 37 wins this season, ties 2004-5 Illinois for most in a season by a Big Ten team. 5th champion to average 90 or more points per game inside the NCAA tournament. First Big Ten title since 2000. Michigan now 2-6 in title games. Their other national championship came in 1989. So an impressive performance last night as UConn has now won or lost to the eventual champion 4 straight tournaments. Impressive run for them, too, even though they didn't pick up the national championship. We heard from Kalen DeBoer a little bit earlier in the show. We've been talking Auburn spring practice. Alex Golesh and his thoughts on protecting Byron Brown moving ahead in this spring practice.
You know, I don't know. I think it all just depends. There's certainly a lot of familiarity defensively with the guys, but there's also a handful of guys that hadn't been in the system that are learning. Offensively, there's a bunch of guys that are familiar with the system, but certainly not everybody and certainly not up front. So I think a lot of ways to look at it. I think the 2 factors that go into when you're evaluating it that are unique. One, the quarterback is not live. And when the quarterback's not live and naturally you're going to protect that guy, it's a little bit deceiving because especially a guy like Byram, where part of his game and a big part of his game is the fact that he can move in the pocket, he can create with his feet, he can extend plays. Naturally, a lot of that gets blown dead pretty quickly, and rightfully so. And this is years of being around quarterbacks. And I've said this before, but you really don't know what a young guy is made of until it's live in the moment. And whether things are going well or things are not, you see a guy take over a game. And great ones do. I think Byram is in that mold. And so you don't get to see just a ton of that.
Does he need to be protected to that extent in practice, Greg? Or I'll flip that around. Does he need to have a live rush even get close to him in practice based on the amount of live tackle football he's actually played?
Oh, man, that's a tough call. I mean, I think, Byron Brown I'm not worried about. The young guys, I'm okay with maybe opening it up a little bit. And I'm not saying necessarily tackle to the ground, but if they want to do thud on the young quarterbacks, sometimes that can be helpful. Thud being basically full contact without tackling to the ground. So you're wrapping up. It's basically the adult version of slightly more aggressive 2-hand touch. So I think that can be helpful from time to time. But coming at it from a quarterback's perspective, I always kind of liked when it was blown dead really quickly because I knew that, in a game, maybe I get that off. Maybe in a game, I might be able to wait an extra quarter second longer, be able to pull the trigger. But practice with it being accelerated, and the second anybody gets close to me, it's blown dead, and it's a sack. It only trains me to be that much faster once game time rolls around and the game slows down a little bit for you.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Alex Golesh also on what defensive players and position groups have stood out thus far through spring ball.
The secondary was really physical yesterday, which has been a huge point of emphasis. This offense challenges you on the perimeter, makes you be really, really good in your fits, makes you be really good in terms of block destruction on the perimeter. I thought the secondary, both the corners and the safeties, played really, really physical. I thought some big-time plays in the run game coming downhill, some really good on the perimeter, and I thought from being really, really sticky on third down, I thought the secondary did a good job. Both the ones and the twos did. I thought up front, defensively, did a really good job, played physical, played violent. The linebacker group has been really solid all spring, and that showed up.
All right, so playing violent, obviously, being able to take on blocks, shedding blocks, so all things that we expect a DJ Durkin defense to do. Didn't get names of defenders there, which is something I do want to spend some time on. Maybe not even today, but in the next few days, just when we're talking about this Auburn defense and what they have a chance to be. Alex Golis, go into offensive position group players that have stood out.
Offensively, I thought Byram did some really, really good things. I thought the running backs, it was really good to see. This is twice now in a week we got to tackle, but Jeremiah Cobb did some really nice things. He's settling in and playing confident football right now. I think at tight end we're beat up a little bit, but like Jake Johnson, it was really his first extended minutes. It was really good to see him play physical. Xavier Newsome did some really good things for a young kid that I don't know if we really expected just a ton coming in early, but he's been forced into playing a bunch of reps. He did some really good things. I think up front, Cole Best, I thought played, and he's been really consistent, running the show, getting us in again, defensively, you're getting a lot of pictures. It's on him to get us right, and I thought he did a really, really solid job.
So that offensive line, one that's going to be rebuilt, remade, they're going to need them to be better than that offensive line played a season ago. And then as we've discussed it, we've talked about it, this Iron Bowl period. Alex Golis discussing kind of the how and why of it.
Not growing up here and certainly never coaching in the state, I've always looked at it from afar as if not the greatest rivalry, but certainly one of the greatest rivalries in all of sports. One, it's an honor to be a part of it, but two, it ain't important unless you make it important. And if I've gotten any message from the Auburn family, it's the fact that game is really, really important. Well, if it's important to them, it's certainly important to me. And listen, it's had to take a huge mental adjustment for me, because the last thing I ever want to think about is the last game. I'm more concerned about today than I am anything else. And so for as process driven as we're trying to build these guys up to be, it's the complete opposite of that, right? Like we're talking about the 12th game, but at the same time, if it's going to be important to them, it's going to be important to me.
Does that make you feel better about it, Greg, from the perspective of Alex Golis admits right there, like I had to make some mental adjustments because I'm not used to doing that way. I'm not used to focusing on the final game of the season at any other point in time than the week of that game.
Yeah, and I think that it's good for him to acknowledge I'm not at the place that I was before. I'm in a different place with different priorities, with different responsibilities, and there needs to be some adjustments. It's not a, hey, my way or the highway type of approach to coaching the Auburn Tigers. And I think every place is a little different. Like how you coach Washington's different than how you coach Alabama. That's just the way. It doesn't mean that there can't be a lot of carryover from what you did previously. You wouldn't have the job if they didn't like what you did previously, but there's going to have to be some give and take with the expectations, the priorities, the level of importance that one game carries maybe versus the other. It just depends. It depends on the place, but it's good to see a willingness and kind of checking the ego a little bit at the door and saying, yep, I might not know it all. What I knew and did at USF might be different than what is expected of me here, so therefore I must adjust accordingly.
Yeah, and makes sense from that perspective when you hear him sort of lay it out that way. Tell our listeners about Polar Bear Services.
Well, Polar Bear Services has been coming to my house for a long time. I've always been very appreciative of what I've gotten from Wes and the guys. They do a great job when they come in your home. They take care of the things that you ask them to take care of, and they can really fix just about anything. I mean, they're terrific when it comes to the plumbing. They're outstanding when it comes to small electrical. They can do small appliance repair, and they really specialize in the HVAC system. Look, it's kind of all over the place. It's been cold. It's been hot. It's going to be hot again. It's going to be hotter. It's going to be colder. It's all over the place. So your home comfort system's struggling right now. Well, mine isn't, because I have gotten regular routine checkups from Polar Bear Services, preventative maintenance from Polar Bear Service. So remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heat, or air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. It's 497-BEAR.
Okay, we'll continue talking Auburn spring. Defensive players came up in our conversation just a moment ago. Who should be watching? Who should we be looking at? Who potentially do we see from this Auburn defense that could be standing out? We'll discuss it right after this on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Jeff Goodman coming up in a few minutes. We'll talk national championship game, kind of put a bow on the college basketball season. A lot of other things that we need to get to, though, and we were going to talk Auburn defense. We'll do that in just a moment. 800-239-9569 if you want to be a part of the show. 800-239-WJOX. I'll tell you about Game Day Men's Health before we continue. If you're lacking energy, feeling on edge, lacking sleep, Game Day Men's Health wants to help you, and it's easy. All you do, go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. It's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Sign up for the free consultation. With that free consultation, get the free PSA test, free testosterone test, get your baseline health. They let you know where they are. They give you the options that they have, the programs they could potentially place you on. You can save 10% on any of those when you mention Mac and Cube when you walk in the front door. And then they let you decide from there. Holistic approach to health and wellness, minimal upfront cost for the programs they offer, all right there at Game Day Men's Health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today, now open in Trustville, see what they can do for you, as they have done for numerous Jocks listeners. All right, Auburn's defense, is there a player or two that you look at and say, I could see him breaking out. I could see him being somebody we're not talking about, or maybe taking the place of a couple that they lost from a season ago?
Well, I mean, we've talked about the bell cow. I mean, that's one of the biggest. I mean, Atkins got to be off the charts good. I think it starts with him. How do you feel about him being able to step into a role as a legitimate, genuine down and down out eraser?
I think he can be. I think he has been that guy, honestly. The thing I like about Xavier Atkins most is if it's sideline to sideline, if it's playing the run north and south, if it is pressures, he has a different gear. You put the film on of anybody else on this defense if you're wanting to watch, doing some draft prep. I've watched a lot of Keldrick Falk. I watched some Amaris Williams to kind of see him going over to Georgia to be able to talk about him a little bit further. But Xavier Atkins has a different gear. And there are certain guys like this just on different teams over time. You watch them and you say, why does everyone not play like that guy plays? Because if you could get that effort from everybody, you'd be fine. And he's going to bring that no matter what he's asked to do. Yeah. So I think he's a great place to start. He's going to need some protection up front. Does that come from a, Cody Sigler that they're bringing in from Arkansas State? I don't know if he can be an every down SEC defensive tackle to the extent that you need him, but Dallas Walker's done some good things. I know they like Jordan Crawford. I'd tell you the guy that I'm excited to watch through spring, through fall, to see if he can sort of end up being a guy is Jared Smith, 41 for the Auburn defense. He to me, towards the end of last year, showed some signs of being somebody that can be disruptive. You're going to get the same length you have with Keldrick Falk. He's 6'6", 260. You see him out in coverage. He can operate in space fairly well. He uses his hands, not afraid to play the run. Now, does that mean he's dominant right this second? No. But he showed some signs of being somebody that I think can really help this defense this upcoming season.
Well, I can get on board with that. I mean, for me, it's pretty obvious. I think the Auburn defense in general probably takes a pretty considerable step back if we're just going off of what was lost. But if you can have a couple guys emerge, have a couple guys pop, it would go a really long way in just calming down any concerns that you might have. I think that's very, very helpful. So if you know you're going to get predictable production from Atkins, that helps a lot, right? Feel good about that. If they can do that, I think that's a tremendous starting point. If a guy like Jared Smith can do something for him and become a down and down out difference maker, and a guy that can kind of fill some holes, fill some voids, do some nice things. I mean, he was a true freshman last year and had some moments, right? So big jump from year one to year two, that'd be really helpful. As far as Dallas Walker is concerned, I think Dallas Walker's got a chance to be a good player for him. I do. I'm a fan. I think he's solid on the interior. But there is just so much unknown. For me, I think Rayshawn Pleasant is solid, really solid on the outside at corner. I think he's outstanding in the return game. So he can do a lot for you. Sylvester Smith took some strides last year at times. So there's reason to believe guys can grow on that side of the ball, but there is still an overarching concern with me along the defensive line. That's where I'm going to lose the most sleep, because that was a strength last year. And I don't know for sure if they'll have the same type of depth as they had a year ago.
I don't think they're going to have the same kind of depth, but I think that there are some ways that you can offset it, negate it just a little bit. I think the linebacker room's got a chance to be deeper than it was a season ago. I think some of the versatility that you have up front potentially could help you there. Like we mentioned with the Jared Smith being able to play sort of inside, outside, can do some different things. So all guys that I think have a chance to help this defense. And I'll say this is a bigger conversation for another day. We don't give defensive coordinators enough credit, I don't think, oftentimes. A lot of times we watch plays and it's a sack or a strip sack or an interception, and look at Rayshawn Pleasant with the play, or look at Keldrick Falk with the play, and it was schemed up. And I think we are quick to give offensive coordinators credit for that, but we struggle to give defensive coordinators credit for that. And DJ Durkin has shown that he can scheme things up. So even with maybe a little bit of lack of talent or a little bit less talent than some other schools, I think his ability to scheme things up could still allow for Auburn to be a little bit ahead of the curve. We'll completely shift gears now, talk national championship game with Jeff Goodman, who joins us on. the Higginbotham hotline. Did that game go about the way you expected it to last night as far as physicality, maybe foul trouble, the way that Michigan kind of controlled things in the paint and beyond?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, you knew Dan Hurley was going to find a way to keep it close enough, right? Slow things down, run their offense, find a way to kind of keep. I mean, I thought they did as good a job as they could do. It was just like ultimately they were overmatched, right? I mean, we knew it. I saw Michigan play, I think 5 or 6 times in person prior to last night, and everyone was complete domination. So UConn had a chance. I don't think anybody thought they were really going to win that game as it went on, but they stayed close enough that maybe, if things had gone right. I mean, Michigan could think about this. Michigan couldn't make a shot from deep. They got out rebounded, and they still won fairly comfortably. Like, that's crazy. They played like their D+ game, and they still won without any like real game pressure.
Looking at the way the game was officiated, it was strange to me. Kind of a bloodbath. And I know Michigan is a physical team. In particular, just when they would press and they would, I mean, there were a handful of times where you thought it was going to be a 10-second violation, but it felt like it was extremely physical throughout. Were you comfortable with how the game was officiated?
I was. I'm fine with it. Honestly, those are two physical teams. Tyrus Reed banging on Adai Mara in the post. I know you had a couple calls that people probably were like with Silas Demery, UConn's point guard, and Cadeau obviously going to the basket, getting a few calls there. But I was right courtside. I had no issue with the way it was officiated, to be honest. I feel like that's generally overblown. Generally, the calls even themselves out. And I think, listen, if there was a major issue, we would have had Dan Hurley going out of his mind, and he wasn't. Those are 3 of the top officials out there, and he and James Breeding have had issues in the past. Hurley's always going to be animated. He's always going to get after the officials. But if he wasn't upset, to me, nobody else should be upset.
Jeff Goodman joining us from Field of 68. They do an amazing job covering college basketball top to bottom all over this national championship game as well. You can go find their work at the Field of 68 on Twitter. Where will this Michigan team fall in the realm of champions? I think it's going to get harder for us to appreciate them like we did maybe in your era, my era, because we had either the 2-3 year buildup or we had the 2-3 year run of kind of the same guys. And it's going to be easier to forget maybe greatness or just these individual teams because the guys are going to show up and be gone so quickly. But where does this team deserve to be mentioned as somewhat of an all-time great?
No, I think you're right. I think we're going to have like an asterisk next to a lot of these teams from here on out because they're not what we're going to remember. Like, I'm standing on the court last night, and I'm like, all right, where are the tears? I always see, guys crying, whether it's players, the coaches get emotional. Nobody got emotional last night. And I don't know if that was just, that team, but I also feel like it was that team that had only been together for like 8 months, right? Like some of these teams, the coaches have recruited these kids for 3 years before they got there. Then they might be there another 3 or 4 years at that point before they win a national title. I mean, you look at, Jalen Brunson, like Villanova, won 2 of them. And again, Jay Wright had recruited him for a long time. Those Carolina guys, Tony Bennett, what they had gone through at Virginia, losing to UMBC. They come back the next year, win the whole thing with, Ty Jerome and Kyle Guy and, Baylor, same thing. Like, it's just different. Even the UConn teams that repeated, right? This is like last year a little bit with Florida, right? It was a little bit with Florida too, and in this group. I just felt like this group was so new together. And I spent, a day with them, a full day with them a month or so ago. And Dusty May did an incredible job, and his whole staff did an incredible job getting these guys to mesh together. Because that's the biggest key these days. It's not talent. It's obviously the construction of the roster. But it's also like throwing all these dudes together for 8 months that have never played together, don't know each other at all, and getting them to accept the roles, buy into the roles, and then get the best version of themselves, which they did with all these portal guys weren't like that coveted. How many people wanted Elliot Cadeau after let's face it, it wasn't good at Carolina. Morez Johnson was a good piece at Illinois. Adon Mara was a guy that Mick Cronin really, he underachieved with Mara at UCLA. So, I just think it's a different era. And again, we're going to look at it a little bit differently because of the way it's going to be from here on out.
When you look at the way Michigan was constructed, I don't know exactly what they spent in NIL. I don't know, but I feel a lot naturally.
Yeah.
But I look at just their physicality, the way they can win in 100 different ways. I always look at it through the lens of an Alabama fan. Watching them play, I'm like, no one's beating that team. And because if Alabama shoots the lights out, they win. If they have a slightly off shooting night, they lose. The variety, though, that Michigan can beat you, like off shooting night didn't make a difference last night. It's amazing to me. So how can more teams implement the style that Dusty May has implemented? Or is it impossible unless you have ridiculously deep pockets?
Well, I think you need deep-ish pockets, right, to be able to do this. And they weren't I don't think they were top 3 or 5 maybe. They're probably 5 to 10 if I had to guess in NIL, somewhere in that realm. I mean, they had good enough money. But they didn't make mistakes. You look at other teams and look at North Carolina, right? They brought in a point guard from Colorado State who just wasn't good enough. They paid him $2 million. And you can't afford to make mistakes in the portal. And that's where you've got to give Dusty May a ton of credit, right? And his staff for evaluating and again, figuring it out. But, he went also with 2 bigs. Did it last year. He did it again this year because it worked last year. And then he added, obviously, Axel Lenborg, who was as coveted as almost any player that entered the portal last year. Remember, he could have went in the draft probably 25 to 35, maybe even 20 to 30. He was probably a first-rounder, a late first-rounder. And they paid him enough. And he said to me earlier this year, he was like, listen, I knew I wasn't ready coming from UAB to go to the NBA. I needed a year at the high major level, but a lot of guys would have said, hey, I'm going to take the money, especially where Yaxel came from, Arizona Western Junior College to UAB. A lot of guys would have just taken the money. And now it worked for Yaxel. I questioned it last year. How could this dude really, you're going to turn down probable first-round pick money, which is similar to what he got. He probably got $3.5 million, maybe made more than that because he was so good this year. Maybe he made 4.5. But now, he's going to be probably a lottery pick-ish. He certainly moved up.
$4.5 million this year, you think he probably got?
I think with everything. I think, again, from Michigan, he probably got in the 3 to 3.5 range. But you got to remember, as they go further, as they have success, they make real money. They make actual, real NIL rather than, NIL that has to be washed, right?
Jeff, I feel like in football, the portal has actually, I'm not saying that it has gone backwards in a great deal, but it's slowed down maybe a smidge.
Really?
I've seen covers from you guys where it's like first 24 hours, 1,000 kids in the portal.
Yeah.
Basketball portal-wise, where are we right now compared to some other years?
Oh, I'm going to get into it right now as I'm talking to you and tell you what the number is so far this year. All right. I'm going to load it up as we're talking. And I will tell you what it is, but it's over since last night. I bet since midnight, we're probably talking already almost 1,000 kids have entered. My daughter covers women's college basketball. She said there were 1,200 that had entered. I think there's 1,200 had entered in the first full day. So last year, and again, I do want to preface it with this, walk-ons are in the portal. They should have a separate portal for walk-ons. Seriously, they should have a walk-on portal because they're not the same.
Right.
Like scholarship players, walk-ons, it's not the same. They should, the numbers are a little bit skewed. I would say out of those, probably anywhere from about 8 to 10%, I think are walk-ons. But you've got right now, there are 1,188 total players that are in the portal this year. That includes the grad transfers that went in before last night at midnight. So I would say there were probably 300 before that. So there are probably almost 900 players that have gone in the portal. 900 players is my guess since midnight. The funniest part, guys, is legit. I tweeted this last night. Yeah, they did one shining moment. That's always the end of everything, right? They're cutting down the nets. then they do One Shining Moment. I'm not kidding when I tell you they start One Shining Moment at like 11:59, and then the portal opens at midnight. I'm like, you can't even make this up.
Crazy to think about
It's
kind of
amazing.
where we are right now.
When you look at a lot has been made of the SEC and the $20.5 million that the SEC, 75% of which will go to football, and the SEC is now moving forward after this past year because they could front load a lot of the deals, is going to fall behind in basketball because the Big East doesn't have football and some other schools are going to prioritize basketball over football. So where are we going forward as it relates to the rev share model and how it could impact the teams down south?
Well, you have to figure out a way, again, like I said, to wash money, whether it's legally or illegally, like however you're going to do it. You got to find creative ways to try. I mean, you're trying to do it legally, obviously. But like I think Alabama is doing it. I talked to Greg Byrne last night, and they're doing this Yay Alabama account where they put out information. And what they're doing is getting people to pay to subscribe for that. So that basically that platform gives somebody like you, Greg, right? You're going to pay, I don't know, $10 a month, right? And you get 50,000 Alabama fans to subscribe to that per month. Think of that money, and basically you're getting exclusive access to information that nobody else is getting from Alabama and the program. It's smart. It's smart. It's all money that, again, adds up that legally they can pay these kids through NIL.
Yeah, it's wild to think about. All right, well,
Yeah.
How
Greg Byrne's one of the best. Guys, that's why Greg Byrne is one of the best.
I don't think there's
That's why.
nobody here is going to push back on that. There's no doubt.
No, he's awesome. He's friggin' awesome.
I want to ask you this question, and I want you to understand that I don't mean any disrespect to him. But how much credit does Dusty May deserve for this championship?
Oh, man. I mean, think about this, guys. All right, I'll give you two things. Number one, the dude took FAU to the Final Four a couple of years ago, which is insane. If you've ever been down to FAU in that program, I mean, they stink. Like, they were so bad. They were one of the worst programs in their league a few years ago. And then you add in what he inherited. Now, again, it's the right time, right? We have NIL. It's a different era, but they were a complete you-know-what show 2 years ago under Juwan Howard. They were a disaster. If it weren't for Kenny Payne at Louisville, like Michigan was the biggest laughingstock of all those high major programs. So I think, man, the dude is just so smart, and he's so good with players, and he's so adaptable to the players. And, I mean, again, I'll say this, like the other night, I've never seen this before where the first game, the coach of the second game is usually watching the first game from the locker room. Right? The head coach is not going to come out to scout at the Final Four. It never happens. Well, Dusty sits 2 seats down from me for that game, the UConn game 2 nights ago in the semifinals. And I'm like, all right, he's going to sit for I don't know, he'll sit for 10 minutes just to get, live eyes on these two teams. And he's there, and I'm like, all right, halftime, you're going back, right? He's like, I don't know, maybe. And I look over, now halftime, he comes back, second half, under 16. I'm expecting him to leave. No. Under 12. No. Under 8. Finally, I look at him. I'm like, come on, man. Like, you got to go. And he's just like calm, cool, collected, doesn't get rattled at all, talks to anybody and everybody. We're just BSing at timeouts. He's just different, man. And I'll say this, I don't know if he'll be an NBA coach, but if somebody hired him, I think he could be successful as an NBA coach with the right group. I don't think you put him with LeBron or, superstars, veteran superstars right away. But if you put him with the right young group, he'd be fantastic.
Who is the next? I mean, we just saw Malone take the North Carolina job. It feels like back and forth, and we've always seen a little bit in basketball. There is some upward mobility there, a little more so than maybe in football in the past. But it does feel like maybe that the lines between the two are getting a little bit less clear. So who do you think are some of the next coaches in college basketball that would be in line to potentially get an NBA job?
Yeah, I think Dusty's at the top of the list, right? He's got to be. Just his temperament, what he's done. NBA guys that I've talked to absolutely love Dusty. And again, it's going to take the right fit. Other than that, I think Nate Oates maybe. Again, probably got to get to another Final Four to have that sort of pop. I think John Shire in 5 years we'll be talking about him. Obviously, again, got to get to a Final Four. But some of these young guys, again, and you can't have an ego. You can't have an ego, and that's where Dusty, Shire are so perfect. Now, again, will they be? It's hard because most of those NBA coaches and the NBA GMs go with those recirculated guys, right? That's generally what Tibbs will probably be hired this year. I thought Michael Malone would be hired. I was shocked, to be honest, that Carolina went with Malone. And the one reason why, well, there's multiple reasons why I'm not all in on that hire, but one of them is in a year, if an NBA job opens and they go after him, he probably goes back to the NBA. That's my guess.
Jeff, we appreciate the time today, man. Great stuff. Great breakdown, not only on the national championship game, but on the portal, some coaching stuff as well. Look forward to catch up with you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great offseason until football starts.
There you go. Appreciate you. Jeff Goodman joining us on the Higginbotham hotline from the airport. And a little bit of a mistake there from him. Football season has started. The UFL is here, and the UFL is tonight. You get Battlehawks and Renegades tonight, 7 o'clock on FS1.
Tuesday night football, baby.
There you go.
You dialing in?
I'm dialed in. Why would I not?
I don't know. I just don't know if you love ball.
No. Why would I not dial in?
I just don't feel like you're a ball guy.
Well, I am. So I'll be there, and I'll be watching, and it'll be on tonight. So a lot of reasons to watch as you get St. Louis, the team is 1-0. Dallas, the team is 1-0. And you get live tackle football on a Tuesday night. What else could you want?
Not much.
There you go. You get it. And you'll get us talking more football next right here on Jocks. Do we think that more first-time head coaches winning national championships is now the norm? Do we think we're going to get this more often in not just college basketball, but college football more often, GMAC?
I don't think it's as likely in college football. I just think it's harder. There's just more chemistry needed in college football. It's a more complex game. There's more repetitions necessary to create the continuity necessary to achieve the highest levels of success. And honestly, it's just there's more players. It's harder to do, I think. I think starting all 22 transfers would be impossible in college football. It can be done.
It'd be tough.
But it'd be really, really hard.
Yeah, I would agree with that. When you look at kind of college football, are there a couple out there that you think, all right, first-time head coach, I could see getting a national championship this year, the next few years? I think there's one easy that comes to mind.
Summerall?
I was actually going to go
Kiffin?
Dan Lanning.
Lanning? Well, he's not a first-year head coach.
First-time national champion.
Oh, first-time national champion. Okay.
Yeah, I misstated that.
All good.
A coach to win their first national title. Would he be at the top of your list there?
Yeah. Him or Sark.
Sark's a good one. Lane's a good one, especially now at LSU where we absolutely know it can be done there.
For sure.
Any others that you look at and say, yeah, first-time head coach, I could see him getting it done. Win national championship, or first national championship for that coach.
First national championship, yeah. Let me look. I mean, honestly, if it's kind of the usual suspects, right? Like it's not. None of us are really going to go out on the limb right now and say, man, I feel great about Oklahoma State winning a title or Houston winning a title. Like it's the places that feel like they can win a title are the places that have won it before. That's been the traditional thought. And then Curt Cignetti goes to Indiana and completely flips that narrative on its head. Marcus Freeman is another guy at Notre Dame that I think is going to have a team this year that could definitely go and make a run. I think Miami is going to be really good this year. So Mario Cristobal, of course, they almost got there last year, but it wouldn't be surprising to me if he won a national championship at his alma mater. I think all of that's possible. Never going to shoot down the possibility of A&M and Coach Elko. I think Elko's that good. I think he's that good as a coach. I think he could get one at some point in the future. But notice how many teams we just listed.
Yep.
A lot more that can win it now than once could. Like, could Kalen DeBoer with this young nucleus really come together, overachieve this year, and then next year maybe they're one of the teams to beat? Absolutely. I think that's possible. So I think there's a bunch of coaches right now at those top tier jobs that haven't won one, but the door feels open.
I'm interested to have, we're not going to do it today. We don't have time today, so we're not going to get to it. Very interested to have our conversation that we do annually on who can win a national championship. Not who we're picking, but just teams that can go win a national championship and kind of where that is. Because I thought last year it was maybe the smallest group of teams that we had ever discussed. And I'm not sure Indiana was one of those teams that we gave serious conversation to. You go down the list this year, I'm wondering, does that expand? It feels like it will. It should. But how much of that is the default of there's no power team that we just look at and say, who can beat them?
Yeah.
Or there's no way anybody in this field can knock them off. I don't feel like we have 1, 2, 3 of those. Maybe not even one of those this year. I mean, do you have a definitive number one team in college football right this second?
Going into this upcoming year?
Correct.
Not a definitive. I have a lean.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I have 2, 3, 4 I could choose from, I think.
Yeah, that's about right.
And we could sit there and finagle. I think the general public's mostly going to be on Texas. That's going to be the one that they look at and say, that's probably the lowest hanging fruit.
Sure.
And then you're going to get your regulars that just say Ohio State.
Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Oregon to me are a cut above.
Georgia not there.
Not in that group.
I would have Georgia in that group. I would.
They'd probably be next man up for me.
So who is in that next tier with Georgia then? If you're just spitballing this right now, Ole Miss in there, Miami in there, Indiana in there.
Yeah, probably put Indiana, probably put A&M, probably put Ole Miss, probably put Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, we're both probably higher on Oklahoma, I think, than a lot of people.
Probably put Alabama near the bottom of that grouping.
I have one that you've mentioned that I think you may have, if I bring them up. Is USC in that category for you?
I was about to say SC would be very close to that category. I'm a fan.
I got to watch them a little more closely.
You're going to love their quarterback the more you study him.
No, Mayoff is a great player. I need to watch the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball more.
I get that. I think their biggest problems were run fits in the secondary last year. And I think that's very correctable. And I can promise you what they won't have this year is loafs on defense with Gary Patterson calling the plays.
Do you have like we've talked about Oklahoma as kind of a sleeper team?
Yeah.
Do you have, we can't really, I hate saying G5 because it's just like.
No, I don't.
But do you not a G5, but do you have a lower tier team that is a sleeper for you right now?
Well, what do you consider Texas Tech a lower tier team?
No, because they were in the playoff last year.
Exactly. So, like, to me,
yeah,
ACC Big 12.
Question.
ACC Big 12, are they a tier below that of the SEC and the Big 10?
Some of the teams are.
In my eyes, collectively, yes. But I don't view Miami and I don't view Texas Tech in the same realm as I do some of the other teams. Like Texas Tech spends. They have talent. They have personnel. Miami has talent. They have personnel. I don't really care what conference you came from. I really only care about what your ceiling looks like. And I think Miami and Texas Tech both have decent ceilings.
I have one, like, this is not my team, but for example, 2 years ago, Colorado would not have been a sleeper team. Now they would, like a lower tier sleeper team. Like when I say lower tier, I mean a team that
like
normally.
Last year, yours was Georgia Tech.
And that probably shouldn't even have counted as a lower tier.
But you know
team.
what I'm saying? Like that,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. Like a team that traditionally has not really been in the mix for a playoff spot.
Yes.
But this is a year that maybe they could do it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. It's an easy one for me this year. And I think they got a really good chance to get in the playoff because I think last year it was hard to choose this league, and this league is not going to be as deep as it was last year.
Pac-12?
No. Although I feel like if you're good against your league, you got a chance to get in. So,
are you going SMU?
It is in that league, though.
You're going Louisville.
I like Louisville a lot. I like Louisville a lot more than other people. I do, but no.
All right, so hang on a second. You have Miami.
I will say I have a little bit of a tell, and it is in line with. And it's actually not as much in line with why I've done it before.
O-line McGee as a head coach?
No, teams that I've had in bowl games. I really like the next year.
I don't remember which bowl game you did.
I had Houston in the bowl game last year.
Oh, don't you start.
Connor Wigman made massive strides last year.
I get what you're saying.
Last year. You add Mekhi Hughes to that offense. You had Trent Walker out of Oregon State.
What did Mekhi Hughes do last year? Besides nothing.
Okay, but I know what kind of player he is.
We all do.
That's fine. Now he's actually going to get some run. They're going to let him play.
Why didn't he play last year?
The majority of the defense is back. I think everybody that's going to start on defense has played.
No tight end.
He was good.
You think?
Tanner Kozel was a really good player. That could be a problem.
Also not in the same league as SMU.
What, the tight end or the team?
No, the team. Well, you just said same league as SMU, and Houston's in the Big 12.
No, same category. Sorry.
I was thinking ACC.
I would have said conference if we were saying league. But yeah, no, yeah.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Same
but
realm.
They're the same. They're the same type of team that I'm describing here. Yeah,
I can get
Even
on board
though
with
SMU
that.
was in 2 years ago, I still view them as one that most people are not going to say, well, they should be in every year. Same with Houston.
Let's look at their schedule.
I think they got a really good chance. We'll look at their schedule on the other side when we come back. How real could it be for Houston to make a potential playoff push? We'll discuss it next on Jocks. if Houston's a team that can potentially push for a playoff spot, that schedule is going to be big. They will have some name recognition on it. Now, depending on what those teams become will sort of change the view of it. Baylor did not meet expectations last year. They'll close with Baylor, but you look at Oregon State early, Southern, at Texas Tech. That could be one that, Greg, they get it early and could be memorable enough to help them regardless if Texas Tech goes on to win 10-11 or 7-8. Just because I think the reputation for Texas Tech right now is pretty good.
Very.
In week 3, it's still going to be there no matter what.
For sure. You get a win against Texas Tech, that's going to help you a lot. Because I think Texas Tech probably be a top 10 to 12 team in the preseason.
Oh, easy.
You think? I don't know. I just feel like the Big 12 always gets pushed down a little bit.
I think, but
in the preseason.
They're benefiting from a lot of the new year-round media calendar for the college football. Cody Campbell has a lot to do with that. And I'm not saying that has anything to do with why they should be ranked in the top 10.
Well, let's see where they were last year. Stand by. Let me look at the preseason
But
last
also,
year.
what do preseason voters fall in love with that teams obtain in the offseason?
Quarterbacks?
Portal players. Yeah, mainly quarterbacks. So, yeah, they're going to get a lot of run in the
Fair.
preseason.
They were 23 in the preseason last year. Arizona State was the top Big 12 team at 11. I think that's about where they are. It's about 11.
Yeah, and I'd be fine with it. Georgia Southern, they'll play them on the road next. Then UCF, then they're at Kansas State. Oklahoma State at Utah. Cincinnati at Colorado at West Virginia. It's a tough road schedule in the back half of the season. I mean, you're at Colorado, at West Virginia in back-to-back weeks.
He can coach now.
That
There's
will not
no
be
doubt.
easy. Oh, he's big time, man.
No, he can coach.
You and I have talked about for years, like, why
Forever.
is nobody going after him?
Well, part of it was his age, as bad as that sounds. Like, a lot of people were concerned, like, man, he's 65, 66 years old. Like, how long is he going to be there? I think the same thing has worked against Kyle Whittingham in the past. Like, like there's a fear that if you hire a guy, the goal is to hire a guy for a decade and change. Well, you hire a guy in his mid-60s, how long is he going to be there? And that gets recruited, and people recruit against you on that, and it becomes tricky, and it's just, it's a hard thing. So it's unfortunate, but it's kind of landed in a perfect spot at a place like Houston.
You get wins at Texas Tech, at Utah, and then you can sprinkle in a couple of other at K-State, at Colorado, at West Virginia, which aren't as meaningful as those. You're going to be in pretty good shape in the playoff picture, I think, if you're Houston. If you're an undefeated or one-loss team.
Yeah, I can get on board with a sleeper season from Houston. Here's the problem. How many close games did they win last year?
Here we go.
A whole bunch of close games. Said the same thing about Missouri last year. The football gods don't bless you 2 years in a row. They just
We've
don't.
said it about Nebraska every year, though.
They don't bless you 2 years in a row. I don't know why that is, but they don't.
They do bless you 15 years in a row with Nebraska not being able to get over the close games.
Okay.
And start winning them.
Arizona, Oregon State, Arizona State, UCF, Baylor, all one-possession victories. That's 5.
I will say,
and LSU.
A lot of that
6.
was on offensive mistakes early, which they began to get over as the season went on. We'll see. A team to watch, though, Houston.